Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible glue of our digital world, integration. We're going to break down how all your favorite apps and services actually talk to each other behind the scenes, why some things happen instantly while others take their sweet time, and how getting this right is a total game changer for any business. So let's kick things off with a question I'm sure you've asked yourself. You know that delay between getting your order confirmation and that your package has shipped email? Well, that's not a glitch. It's actually a really deliberate choice about how and when these digital messages get sent. Understanding that choice is the key to understanding everything we're going to talk about today. And this stuff really matters because when these digital conversations go wrong, it is so much more than just a minor annoyance. A single broken connection can cause a whole cascade of problems. We're talking incorrect inventory, failed payments, and a whole lot of very unhappy customers. It can be a real nightmare. Yeah, choosing the wrong way for your systems to talk leads to a whole host of issues. You get sluggish performance that just drives users crazy. You might blow through your API limits. Think of it like running out of data on your cell plan, and bam, communication just stops. Your data gets all out of whack, with your sales system saying one thing and your warehouse saying another. And in the worst-case scenario, the whole system can just crash and burn. Okay, so how do we dodge all those bullets? Well, it all starts by asking the right questions. And the first, and honestly the most important one, is the when question. Does this data need to move right this second, or can it wait a little bit? The answer to that one question changes everything. And that brings us to our first big fork in the road, the difference between real-time and batch integration. Real-time is all about that immediate, right-now exchange of information. Batch, on the other hand, is kind of like saving up all your letters and sending them in one big package at the end of the week. Let's dig into real-time first. Think of it as an instant cause and effect. You hit buy now and you expect that little confirmation to pop up immediately, right? You want to know your order is placed this very second. That's real-time integration in action, and it's absolutely crucial for things that cannot wait. Batch integration, on the other hand, is kind of like that nightly delivery truck. It's not instant, but boy, is it efficient for hauling huge amounts of data. Imagine a giant company that needs to sync millions of sales records into its main database. You don't need to do that every single second. Doing it just once, overnight, in one massive batch is way more practical and puts a lot less strain on the systems. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. We're adding another layer to this whole timing thing. It's not just about when the data moves, but also, does the system that sent the message have to, sit there and wait for an answer before it does anything else? Synchronous is just like a phone call. You ask a question, and you're stuck on the line waiting for the other person to reply before you can move on. A perfect example is when you're filling out an address form online. The system makes a synchronous call to check if your address is valid, and you have to wait for that thumbs up before it lets you save. It's a blocking call because it literally blocks you from doing anything else. And then you've got asynchronous, which is the complete opposite. It's basically like sending a text message. You send it, and then you can put your phone down and go about your day. You know you'll get a notification when the reply comes back. This fire and forget approach is perfect for that shipping notification we talked about at the beginning. The order system just tells the shipping system, hey, get this ready, and then immediately moves on to the next order without waiting around. All right, so we've totally nailed down the when of integration. Now let's pivot and look at the how. This is all about the architecture, the actual blueprint for how these systems are wired together. The absolute simplest way to connect two systems is point-to-point. It's exactly what it sounds like, a direct, private line between two applications. Think of it like a private conversation between just two people. For a simple one-off job, it's quick and easy. But what happens when you don't just have two systems? What about 10 or 50? You get this, a chaotic, tangled web of connections, a total nightmare to manage. If you need to update one system, you might have to go in and tweak dozens of these individual connections. It's a mess, and it just doesn't scale. So, how do you fix that spaghetti mess? You bring in something called middleware. Think of it as a central hub, a universal translator, and a master switchboard operator all rolled into one. Instead of every system talking directly to every other system, they all just talk to the middleware. And this is why it's so powerful. It lets these big, clunky enterprise systems talk to each other without having to learn each other's language. So you've got Salesforce over here, sending out an order. The middleware snags it, works its magic to transform it into a format that SAP can actually understand, and then zips it over to the right place. So clean, so organized, and way easier to manage. Okay, last but definitely not least, we have event-based architecture. Now, this is a totally different and really powerful way of thinking about communication. It often works beautifully with middleware. Instead of one system directly telling another what to do, it simply announces that something important has happened. Yeah, exactly. It's like shouting a public announcement over a loudspeaker instead of making a private phone call. When an order gets created, the system just announces to anyone who's listening, "Hey everyone, new order just dropped." Then any other system that cares, shipping, inventory, marketing, can hear that announcement and decide to act on it all on their own. So, we've got all these options on the table: real-time, batch, synchronous, asynchronous, point-to-point, middleware, event-based. Phew. What do the pros actually use out in the real world? What's the go-to combination that wins most of the time? Well, the answer is actually pretty consistent. It turns out that in about 80% of projects, developers lean on a very specific combination of these ideas to build systems that are strong and can actually grow with the business. And here's the winning trio: asynchronous, middleware-based, and event-driven. Now, why these three? It's all about one word: flexibility. These methods are scalable, and, this is the big one, they don't force systems to be super dependent on each other. This creates what's called a decoupled architecture, and that is the absolute gold standard in modern software, because if one piece fails, it doesn't bring the whole house down. Okay, that was a ton of information, I get it. So let's boil it all down into one simple cheat sheet. This will summarize everything we've talked about and make it super easy to see the pros and cons of each approach at a quick glance. Here it is. And the most important thing to see here, the real takeaway from this whole explainer, is right there in that dependency column. Notice how the ones with high dependency, real-time and synchronous, are for very specific niche situations. But the most flexible, the most scalable options, asynchronous, middleware, and event-based, they all have low or very low dependency. That's the secret sauce for building systems that don't break. And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? It's one thing to get your systems connected, but it's another thing entirely to get them communicating effectively. In our digital world, making a connection is the easy part, but having the right conversation, well, that's the real challenge. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.